Hello, everyone. Joy and I are so pleased to be talking to director Will Mackenzie again. He's directed two of the most celebrated and funniest episodes of Moonlighting, My Fair David and Atomic Shakespeare. Before directing, Will was an actor, which became very helpful when he was dealing with them. So, and just a little bit of Will's resume, he also directed episodes of The Bob Newhart Show, Bosom Buddies, Family Ties, Remington Steele, Everybody Loves Raymond, Scrubs, and Reba, just to name a few. So thank you, Will. I'm going to start asking questions. Our Facebook group, Moonlighting 21, submitted these questions. The first batch, I will ask you about My Fair David. So let's get that. And we can call these up.
That was the first one I did, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, now, when you were approached to direct Moonlighting in 1985, what did you know about the show at the time? Did you watch any episodes when it first aired in the spring and summer of 1985?
Yeah, I watched the pilot. Bob Butler did the pilot, which is a fabulous pilot, and I think, and I had the same agent as Glenn Caron, so Elliot Webb, both of our agents, and so. And I did say when I saw the pilot, yeah, boy, I'd like to get on this, but I hadn't done a lot of single camera. I was basically a sitcom director, and so I had, I'd done Remington Steele, I did Scarecrow, and a couple of the single camera. But anyway, yeah, Moonlighting was finally, and then I guess it was the second season I got that My Fair David episode. So, and Jay Daniel may have had me watch a couple of other episodes. I can't remember now, but I remember watching that pilot and thinking how great it was, and getting to know Bob Butler, who was a giant in our DGA industry. Yeah.
The first episode, as you said, is a hilarious My Fair David, which won you your first Directors Guild Award and also your first Emmy nomination. When directing this episode, did you have any ideas that it would turn out so well? It was obviously inspired by My Fair Lady.
And Pygmalion, of course. We can't forget George Bernard Shaw. No, it was, but I don't know how much you've talked to other writers and directors, but, Glenn rewrote everything except the Shakespeare show. That was the only one he couldn't touch. But he rewrote My Fair David, so I never saw really a full script. I saw a concept of a script, and we had day by day, we got the script as we went. I think Barbara Bane is the villain, and she didn't know she was the villain until we found out on day 5 or 6 that, oh my God, Barbara Bane's the bad guy, and Bobby Joy is whatever, not. But that was typical of Moonlighting, the way it was. I mean, the shows went so long, and that episode, which I did the whole way, there were a lot of episodes I didn't do much of, but that episode was 13 days, and most our shows are supposed to be shot in 7 days, maybe 8 at the most, but we did 13 days, and they were all congratulating me, wow, you brought it in for 13 days and not 14 or 18 or whatever else. And so, and I thought I was being fired the first day because Bruce and Cibil didn't work the first day. I hadn't even met them, but I did the opening with Robert Joy, Bobby Joy, and the two goons, and I shot that, and then I think we did some of his piano playing and stuff, but that was basically all we did that day. That opening scene where he's gambling on the football game. And I get a call the next morning, come in to see Jay and Glenn. We didn't like what you shot. We're going to reshoot it. You got to reshoot it. So I had to go back the first day and shoot the whole thing all over again on day 2. And we already had a whole thing. And I was getting tips from Jay Daniel. Glenn just didn't like it. Glenn couldn't put into words technically why, but Jay Daniel, God bless, would say, no, you need a lower angle. You need those guys to look scarier. You need this, you need that. This is coverage, all that. So I went back And the interesting thing was what took us all day to shoot one scene, of course, when we did it again, took us 4 hours maybe to shoot that same exact scene, but it was a lot of different coverage. And the guys were a little more scary, and Bobby Joy was a little more scared. And, so I was giving this encouragement, and they didn't fire me, and then I got to work with Cibil and Bruce on I think it was the second day, I guess your answer is I didn't think, I thought I was going to be fired. And then as the show went along, then I started to realize, wow, this is going to be really funny, because Bruce was really funny. And so was Cibil, and they were both really taking to me and what I was bringing to them, I thought.
So what do you remember about meeting Bruce and Cibil? What was your impression of them?
It was great. I was very nervous. Bruce wasn't big at the time. Bruce had done very little, but he was Bruce. He was very, very cocky and very, full of himself, and in a good way. And Cibil was very friendly, nice. And I worked with her first. I think it was the beginning of the second act, where she has to tell a joke. And she I think she'll admit this, she's not the funniest person in the world, but she's a lovely, lovely woman. And we worked out a lot together. And anyway, I gave her some ideas about where to stage it and who to talk to, and just specifics. And she liked that. And so I remember Bruce came in the afternoon after lunch to start that Limbo stuff. And so we did all the office stuff. And I remember hearing Cibil leaving the set and Bruce coming on, and Cibil saying, "This guy's wonderful. You're going to like him." And like that. I went, wow, that made me feel good, even though it wasn't intended for me to hear. And then I got on with Bruce great, because I loved finding bits for him, business, and he loved that. And, getting the toilet paper rolls to talk to as a microphone, or picking up a lamp at one point to say, "Here's a prize for the Who Limbos," and just take this. It's all about improv and coming up with bits on the time. And I think because I'd done so much sitcom that I was used to thinking on my feet, getting a new script every day. We had so many rewrites. So that first day, I thought went really, really well. And I had my whole interview about the help I had from Jay Daniel, Jerry Finnerman, who was great. And I was kind of new to single camera. I'd done all this 4-camera stuff, but this was still a new realm for me, doing 360 degrees instead of a proscenium. So he gave me a lot of those great angles, Jerry Finnerman, the high POV of the Limbo and all of that stuff. So that scene turned out great, and Bruce was really happy doing Bruce. He was basically finding out who is Bruce Willis and David Addison and all that, and that still at that time. And they were realizing, I think after the first year of Moonlighting, which I didn't see many of, they're realizing they have a comedy on their hands. It's not a drama. It's a comedy. It's a sexual comedy. And, it had the mystery. That's all underneath. That's all in the background. Who really cares? What you want to see is Cibil and Bruce, having their interaction. And it's great. And that's when I think they said, well, let's get a more of a comedy director. And they got me. Or they got some others too. Many other great ones. Good ones.
So when it came to the acting styles and methods, how did they take direction from you?
Pretty well. I mean, there's the good thing about good directing is sometimes not directing. If I could tell when Cibil wanted help, she wouldn't actually say it, but she would. You can see, how about you try this, or what about making a suggestion? She wouldn't be defensive about it, and if she was happy with what she was doing, she'd do it. If I can help, and Bruce is just, I just pushed him to do his thing, his just being that raw, goofy, bartender that he was. No, I think they took well to me because I did a lot. I did lots of other episodes, but I noticed you brought it up. I only get credit for 4, but I get residuals for quite a few. So I think we had what we call a director's bench. They didn't have a director's chair. But that and the Shakespeare show were the ones. And then you told me about 2 others, but as I said to Diana, I don't remember directing some of those things. And they had other directors come in and either finish my episode or because we went on so long and I had other work to go to. I'd already been booked on Family Ties or booked to do Bosom Buddies beforehand or something like that. So anyway.
So, well, you touched upon this, but there's a lot of physical comedy. I guess you brought comedy to the show. Yes. So, so were they in the script or did you incorporate them as part of your direction?
I couldn't. My Fair David, I don't remember the original. I don't even remember that guy's name, the writer that you had, but it was all Glenn. I mean, Glenn rewrote whatever that script was. I don't know if he was on the staff that year or not, but that's all Glenn. And I think he puts a lot of that in there. And then he encouraged me to bring stuff. And also I always encourage the actors to come up with, especially Bruce. Bruce is very creative, and he came up with a lot of that stuff himself. And Cibil is their styles. You had asked that are different from one another. So I think a little more by the book, and but they're both they were so great about learning their lines, and then getting these total rewrites at 6 a.m. Glenn would come in at 3 or 3:30 apparently into his office and take whatever was written and rewrite that day's work, whatever it was. And we'd get all of these pink pages hot off the press at 6 or 6:30, and everybody's sleepy-eyed and has coffee, and we all gather, and Cibil and Bruce each have scripts, and we work it out together. The staging, I make sure Jerry Finneman is watching me. What am I doing? What am I not doing? All of that, and what they're doing. And I encourage them to do that. And then they go off to hair and makeup, and they learn the lines doing hair and makeup. And they were getting that episode in particular. They were getting along great. I mean, it was a very happy set in that time, and they liked each other. I think that second year we were beginning to realize that we were a hit. I think right? The show was a hit.
Yeah, well, yeah, you certainly certainly being written about. There's a lot of buzz. It was so different, the show when it came out at that time. Yeah. So you mentioned about giving bits of business to Bruce and Cibil. Well, so what did you give Bruce and what did you give Cibil? Or as you mentioned, they probably even.
I just remember the desk with the cone and the lamp and stuff. And he liked that, and I don't remember what I gave business. I gave to Cibil, but this is too far long ago to remember any of that stuff. But it was a very cooperative atmosphere. That's the way it always was with whatever show I worked on. I depend on the actors to bring out more. Tim Busfield said once to me, "You're on fire, Will. You're on fire." But on fire to me means just you're thinking fast. One of the reasons I had to retire was because my mind at 72 wasn't working the way it was when I was 45 or 50. You just come up with ideas that are right for the moment and right for the scene, and you're invested in it, and you hope so the actors too.
Well, I think the fact that you were an actor, they probably loved that too, because they felt they could really communicate with you and you could identify with what, with
exactly. And I know how hard it is, even though in spite of Bruce's bravura and Cibil's beauty and all that, her dignity and all that, they're both terrified. We all are when we do these kind of things. We're terrified we're going to fail, and we're also terrified of that imposter syndrome. So they're all going to find out in another day or two that I'm a total fake and I'm a total phony.
Now, you may not You may not know the answer to this because the way the scripts were coming down, but we heard the limbo scene was supposed to be used in another episode.
I didn't know that. Yeah, you said that in one of you. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know what Maddie would have been walking in on to make him mad. So they just
No, I think what was great is
make him mad.
You know, they often walked in and they're doing nothing. You know, Maddie would walk in and they're all just sitting buffing their nails or shining their shoes or sitting up and chatting, but they weren't working. But this, they were not only not working, they were having a party, in her office, which would look awful if a Barbara Bane prospective client shows up. It's embarrassing, and she runs the agency, so it makes her even more pissed off, which is great.
So now we talked about their chemistry. So you talked about their chemistry, and we, it was definitely snap, crackle, pop. And what can you tell us about the scene when David pins Maddie against the door, accepting her bet? Because it was funny, but it was also very,
it was the heat. You could see sexual tension, and it was great. It was the beauty and the beast kind of thing, and she's always so pretty and so dignified, and finally kind of you could see that smile coming in, and he's getting through to her, and also just he suddenly in his own masculinity kind of takes over the scene, and I think she enjoyed that in her own subtle way. I love that. I just thought it was fabulous, and it's nothing I certainly gave to him. I think that's implicit in that scene, and you could see by then they knew he was flirting with her and doing all of that stuff. He did also that thing when he crosses behind her and says, "Now we've made the bet, and you're going to act like it," and then he acts like Quasimodo, coming behind. That was mostly Bruce. I mean, I gave him do that, follow, and I don't know what the script said, but do something. And then Bruce comes up with this thing, which of course you can't do now because you're making fun of people. It's just God. When I looked again at those two episodes when you asked me about it, and there's so much we can't do. It's not politically correct. All the slapping of the butts and this slap and tickle and stuff, and killing. But
what I liked about that scene is too when he's following her Quasimodo style, and as soon as she turns around, he straightens up. It's like the time is perfect. Yeah.
See, this is I mean, I can't speak bad of Bruce Willis. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry about the condition he's in, because we lost 3 people in our world to aphasia, and we know all about it. But he just is a comic. I mean, he was a really good, and I wish he'd done more comedy. I know what is that? Sorry.
But you were saying that he should have done more romantic comedies. Or more comedies.
In that Wes Anderson movie. And he did, but potentially he would have been, a George Clooney or done. I mean, not that he did what he wanted. He wanted to do Die Hard, and he wanted to be an action hero. God bless him. And he was. He made millions, and he did what he wanted to do. He didn't do what I wanted him to do. But that's just my own feeling, because he potentially is a wonderful comic actor and a solid actor too. Now,
another scene that I really loved is when they thought they earned the $50,000, and David broke it to song and dance.
Yeah.
And I always laugh out loud when he says, when she says to him, "You sound like Ricky Nelson."
Payphone. It's so funny. Yeah. The show looks so dated now because nobody had cell phones, and we were all using payphones and everything. Yeah. No, that was great. And that again is Bruce. I mean, we'll get into that with the Shakespeare show, but he had a band, and he played harmonica in his band, and he loved to sing, and he loved to do all that, whatever you call it, jazz, scat, Southern stuff, but actually it was black, So for her to say Ricky Nelson is the ultimate wasp insult.
White boy.
And he thinks he's a black boy. I mean, He's got
Yeah.
black sense of humor and sense of rhythm and music and all that stuff. So yeah.
Did he bring the harmonica to the set a lot? Did he
No, I don't remember.
Oh,
Only
okay.
only at the Good Lovin', and he asked, could he play the harmonica? And I said, absolutely.
Really?
And then we
Okay.
got him to sing, and then that turned into a great number. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but I knew that he had a band outside. He had a band that he
Mhm.
loved to play with, and he played harmonica in the band. And he must have sung in the band too. I never saw the band.
Mhm. Now, what other memories can you share about filming the episode? Because you had Barbara Bane.
I wanted to tell you one
and-
thing that's funny. Barbara Bane, I love, and Bobby
Mhm.
Floyd. The door, that was something I thought was funny, is when she tells that story of the joke about the duck and the pig and everything, and she's always going off to her office and slamming the door. Bruce never goes to his office and slams that door, but it was always that door that got slammed over and over. And if you notice, when you see it again, that door just took a beating, and we couldn't get that door to work right. So we had to have one of the grips be on the other side of that door. And I was realizing that the last time when she slammed the door, and then she's always off in a huff, and slams the door, and the door would pop back open again. So we had to finally have somebody there to hold the door to get the effect of. Barbara Bane was just cast. I mean, we had Robert Joy come in, I think, for an audition, and he was a good actor. I'd known him musically through something. Anyway, Barbara was just, we were told Barbara Bane was available, and and she was great. She just came in that first day and was herself, and again, didn't know what the role was, except that it was going to be a guest star part, but she didn't know she was the bad guy at all. She was just there protecting supposedly her son or stepson. Great voice that woman had. Low. I felt she's like oil, the way she moves in. And I love that music that they add to when suddenly it changes. And this is where, to me, that's part of the genius of the show is highlighting musical, comedy, romance. But then all of a sudden, now the scary music comes in. Well, here's Barbara Bane coming in. Uh-oh. Now we got to pay attention to the plot.
Yeah.
Barbara,
Yeah, very icy demeanor. Yeah.
I think she was glad to have the work, and it was a good show to be on for her. Anyway.
Okay.
And Bob Joy was terrific. He's a wonderful actor, and he's a singer. So he's done musicals, and he does. I think he's still working.
He was playing the piano, right?
Yeah, he didn't do the insert. They have an insert, and they dubbed all that. But he played the piano. I think it was a piano that didn't have the keys weren't banging. So he could play, and he had learned those pieces. And he played, you can't fake that stuff, I don't think. And we actually were able to, which is always the key, to be able to come off we call them come offas. The camera's on the fingers, you come off the keyboard and you actually see the player. And I remember when I just looked at it, we cut a shot. We had a wonderful dolly track. We never used Steadicam. And Glenn and Jay, they didn't want to have zoom lenses or anything. It was a big, big deal. That was another scene I had to reshoot in one episode. But they caught Jerry Finneman and me, sneaking a zoom lens in. And he only wanted fixed lenses, and Jay and Glenn, and they could spot a zoom, that we just used in tape all the time. And Jerry Finneman said it'll save some time and they'll never see it. So we did it, and sure enough, the next day I got a call. Is that a zoom shot you put? Yeah. Well, let's redo that. So we did. We did a lot of reshooting. I remember that. I mean, Glenn was, as my dad used to say, easily satisfied with perfection, and Glenn knew what he wanted, and he got it for the most part. And if he didn't get it, Jay Daniel could tell you and interpret what he wants is low angles, high angles, keep them moving, keep them. That's what I totally believe in sitcom is Bruce and Cibil very rarely sit still. They move all the time. The way their dialogue is overlap, like in real life. This was, and I was used to this from sitcom because my big thing is sex-paced gaiety. It's a term I use. I have Fulbright to England right after college, and I had a teacher who taught restoration comedy, and it was all about sex-paced gaiety, which meant obviously attractive people with attention, pace. Keep it moving, overlap the dialogue. You know what you're going to say while the other person is finishing their speech, so don't wait. And gaiety in those days meant happiness, fun. I am happy. I am having a gay old time, a happy time. I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing. Therefore, you, the audience, will relax because I am in control. I know my lines. I know what I'm saying. I know my character, all that stuff. So anyway, this all fit into Moonlighting for me. I felt.
Yeah. With your comedy background, sitcom background, you definitely brought it to your episodes.
Yep. WKRP in Cincinnati. That was a good. I think I was doing that right before this, so that was around 19. That was back. I don't know when that was. 79, early 80s. And Family Ties came in after that, and yeah. Okay.
Okay, Joy. Now, Joy will ask you questions on Atomic Shakespeare.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it was the most expensive Moonlighting episode to film, and it won you a second Directors Guild Award and earned you another Emmy nomination. Glenn asked you to direct this episode because you were familiar with Shakespeare and you had experience performing it. Were you excited or terrified?
Both. And I saw that. I was definitely both. My mother taught Shakespeare, so that's the beginning of it all. My mom was an English professor at Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts, and I joked to Glenn, we used to go around the house speaking iambic pentameter when I was in high school, but we didn't, of course. Yeah, I did a lot of Shakespeare in college. I was at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for a summer, and then I spent this year in England doing more Shakespeare. And then I'd been in the Broadway production of Much Ado About Nothing with Sam Waterston and Kathleen Widows, and we had gone from the Central Park to the Winter Garden, and then we actually made a PBS, was it, or CBS? PBS special out of it. It's still around. Much Ado. So I'd never directed Taming of the Shrew. I'd done the musical Kiss Me Kate, but I'd never done the show Kiss Me Kate, Taming of the Shrew. But yeah, so I was excited to do it. I was in the middle of directing a show for Barry Kemp. It was a series called The Popcorn Kid, and I'd done the pilot, and I loved the cast, and I loved Barry Kemp. So I was signed to do, I think they got picked up for 13. So I was in the middle of this, and I can remember this. I got a call on the set. It was from Elliot, our agent, but Barry Kemp and Glenn Caron and me all had the same agent. So that helped a lot. Bob Broder and Elliot Webb. And so Elliot called and just said, I think Barry will let you out. Glenn Caron wants you to direct this big, it was $3.5 million, which in those days was humongous. And Brandon Stoddard finally told me this years after it was over. He was head of ABC at the time. But it turned out successful. That again was a show like, oh my God. And we're in the middle of it. And I said, this is going to be the biggest piece of shit that has ever been on television, or it's going to be fabulous seeing Bruce and Cibil. But everybody, you asked, is everybody on it? Absolutely. Everybody was on it, including especially Bruce and Cibil. Have never done Shakespeare. They never have done Shakespeare. And yet they made it as conversational as they possibly could. And they didn't use English accents or they were Maddie and David. I mean, they were themselves, and they were able to do this without this highfalutin idea of I have to become Ralph Fiennes, or I have to become Laurence Olivier or something. They could be themselves, and which to me takes a tremendous amount of confidence on their part. And they were. And we had no pre-rehearsal. I mean, special episodes I've done, like Scrubs, we did a music. We had a week rehearsal beforehand. Family Ties, we had a special episode. We had an extra week of rehearsal. Moonlighting, we rehearsed on the set. We rehearsed right there we were on the Universal back lot for everything on location. But that first scene I did with them is where he comes in to tame her. Here is Petruchio, and that was done on a sound. That was on our sound stage down at Fox. Yeah, Fox. Anyway, I get to ramble on, so just cut me off whenever.
Was everyone 100% on board with doing something different like Shakespeare?
Yes.
Was there any pushback, especially from the network?
I don't know. I never heard. They kept me away from all of that, thank God. And my biggest concern in that was Cibil and Bruce. I mean, I wanted to get them through and be as comfortable as they possibly could. And we did. And I was so pleased that first day when I saw. The biggest problem Cibil had was the costumes with the moleskin. And the costumes were huge and heavy, and I don't know when we were shooting that, but it was hot. And poor thing,
all the scenes with the moleskin.
Yeah, we had to stop shooting. I went and shot some stuff with Curtis Armstrong and Kenny McMillan, I remember, because Cibil's stuff had to all be redone with the moleskin inside because it itched so much. She was driving her crazy, and we wanted her to be happy, and she was. She was, I think, excited, and Bruce loved it. I mean, Bruce really, really loved all that. That script, which is great. I saw your thing with Ron, Jeff. That script never changed. That script, almost every bit was in that. The horses cooking and you mentioned the sunglass. That was all in the script. I mean, that boys, and that's what we all loved, is that Glenn can't get it. I mean, we love Glenn, and he's by far a genius for this show, but you can't rewrite it. So you could learn your lines 4 days ahead and know what was going to happen. I could prep 4 days ahead and know it's not going to change like it did on My Fair David or any of the other shows. Yeah.
Was there a difference in directing Maddie and David as their characters than Maddie and David as Kate and Petruchio? Is there a different way of working with actors in the latter case? Were they having more fun playing different characters?
I think they both had fun doing this. I think they're glad, like they say at the end, we hate iambic pentameter, but I think they're glad we didn't do any more than one of these a season. But they did the big dance episode with Peter Werner did one. Those are just special things to do in a season. You don't want that week in and week out. No, they just pitched in, and that was what was remarkable, that I didn't probably have to do a lot of, let's bring that back to reality, because neither of them tried to be fake or phony about it. They were very invested in making this good. This was the beginning of the third season, was that right?
Yes, it was in third. Yeah, November, aired in November. Yeah, of the third season.
Middle.
That's shot it in September, probably. Oh, that was the other thing about Moonlighting is I never got to see a rough cut because the show would finish on a Friday, and I go, when am I going to see the rough cut? You'll see it Tuesday on the air. Did it air on Tuesday nights? I think Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes, 9 o'clock.
That's when you see it. When I first saw My Fair David was Tuesday night with all my friends and family. This is it. And that was what Jay and Glenn said. Jay was in there in the editing room with Artie and Mandelberg up till probably 24 hours before they had to deliver it to ABC. Wasn't it ABC? ABC.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Picture Maker. Yes, that was the company. Picture Maker. Yeah. So no, they were all on board, and it was wonderful cooperation. One story, we may get to it later, but I'm in the middle of directing Cibil and Bruce, and he's finally tamed her, and they're going to bed together. They're having a bed scene, and who shows up by my side is Peter Bogdanovich. Holy shit! Peter Bogdanovich. Hi, Will. Cibil says you're doing a great job. Oh, well, thanks, Peter. And she introduced me to him. He was so sweet and friendly, and never made any suggestions. If you feel like saying anything, go ahead. Oh, no, you're doing it fine. And they just were, they'd broken up, but they were very friendly. And he sat with her. I don't know if he told her anything or not. Nothing changed, but it was just, for me, it was like, oh my God, that's Peter Bogdanovich. And he just spent one day. It was one day, but of course it was the most intimate scene possible, with her and Bruce kind of giggling and being supposedly naked under the sheets and all that. So it was just a funny memory I have from that show. We did that. God, it took forever to shoot that. I'm sure maybe Ron told you, or Jay. We had 3 units. I mean, there were parts that I didn't direct. Jay Daniel did, or there was other parts that Chris Howell, wonderful stunt coordinator, did, because I was the A unit, and I did everything with Bruce and Cibil. Jay Daniel did a lot when Bruce and Cibil were working with me. Kenny McMillan and Curtis Allyce had stuff together, so they shot the other stuff, the subplot there, and then any stunts, I would just drop that part, and then Chris would come in and do the horse kicking those 3 boys over the fountain and do all of that stuff. Chris Howell was wonderful, by the way. He worked with me a lot after that on pilots anytime I needed any kind of stunts, but he helped me on that My Fair David. Having one second or third day when I had to do that scene in the car where she's driving and he's hanging off the side of it. And Bruce, what's his name again? The guy I just said, Chris Howell. He showed me exactly where do you put the camera, where's the best place, this IMO, this camera that stays at, no operator is just there in the action, and this would be a good angle and this and that. So I did that, but he really helped do it. So I'm always somebody who says, God, I got the credit, but I had a lot of help. I always,
The episode is full of sight gags, especially the oversized sunglasses on the horse and the BMW emblem on the saddle. Do you know where they got those items from?
Halloween store.
Patsy's saying, Halloween store, party store. Prop people in Hollywood, especially, are absolutely amazing. If you want something, they'll find it. They will find anything. And if you want oversized sunglasses that a horse will wear, they have to know ahead of time so they can have it for a few days and rehearse with the horse. That's where you have to prep is, animals, not us human beings, but animals have to be trained. But that horse, as far as I remember, there was a stand-in when Bruce first came in, I think. But then he rode that horse, and he rode that horse in the church. My God. He was great with that horse.
Some of the other sight gags, like the "Here's Petruchio" line. Do you remember filming those fun sight gags they did?
Yeah, no, we did an insert of that axe hitting in case of whatever it is, break the glass.
I think in case of shrew, break glass. Yeah.
That script was brilliant. I think, did they win the Emmy for that, or they certainly got a nomination? But anyway, it was great. That was all in the script, and then him coming in through the door. So we had that special balsa wood door that he could do the Jack Nicholson, "Here's Johnny" kind of thing, and that was all shot. And then Cibil, and then a lot of rolling around with doubles. There was a very nice lady who was her double, who was the exact same size and had the wig and all that. So whenever, like at the end of the church scene, she's going up the aisle, as long as you didn't see Cibill's face, I'd always do a stunt double, tried to. We really tried to save her as much as possible. She was a huge movie star, getting her to do this after her Peter Bogdanovich movie. That anyway. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that Thomas Shakespeare, it was shot like a movie. I mean, you had all these minutes, and it's big.
No, it was great. And you asked if I still get, and now that it's streaming, I haven't gotten because of the streaming, but I still get a lot of notes about Shakespeare because it's mostly teachers that use it in class. Say, okay, you don't like Shakespeare? Well, watch this. And here's an hour. They don't know who Bruce and Cibil are at this point, but they see this funny idea of Taming of the Shrew. It's not according to Shakespeare. What did Ron say? He did a good first draft, and but Kate has a big speech that they changed, so it's basically Petruchio's big speech at the end of how much he loves her and how much he has kind of submitted to the female's way, rather than her getting up and saying, I can't remember the speech now, but it's totally different. Women's lib.
Yeah, feminist. Well, Cibil was a feminist, so it was a feminist speech.
Oh God, yeah, she sure was. That was another thing about, and not changing it, but it was, later you asked about it. I don't want to get into what the conflicts are on the set, but I was always in Cibil's defense of all of this because it was a very, very male set. And when Bruce came on, the guys loved him. We all did. I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody. But the women were Cibil and her hair and makeup and the script supervisor. And that's about it. I mean, there were maybe 3-4 women on the set and her stand-in. And then 95 guys. And that's the way it was in, 85, 84, 85. Just no women directors. We didn't even have a woman AD. We had great ADs, but no female. And I could see that, it bugged her. And it should have.
Oh, you did have Allyce also.
The what?
Allyce Beasley.
Allyce.
Beasley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Lovely.
This song, Good Loving, that Bruce Willis sings in the church right after Patricia and Kate wed.
Right.
Do you know if they had to get permission to use that song?
Yeah, you asked about that, and I don't know. I that was just there when I came on, so I don't know. Ron had said they looked at other numbers, but boy, what a great choice it was. I thought, and that's when my wife helped me at home. My wife was a dancer on Broadway and did a lot of choreographing and staging and stuff. So we just asked. Bruce wanted to play the harmonica. Then we got him to sing, and we asked for extras, atmosphere with musical ability. So they all had senses of rhythm, so they could all move around and dance. And the ones who were fairly good, I got in the front with Kenny and Allyce and Curtis. But I gave him all that, but Patsy had given that to me. We called it finger choreography, la, 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 la. And they could all do it, and they loved doing that. He must have done it 40 times, but they loved it. And then Bruce, I just basically said, I'll just go anywhere up and down here, include her. She's bound to the thing. Mostly it was a stunt double, but the priest was there, and Kenny had already sat down, and just move around in this area and sing. And then we had a separate cut of the band of the thing. But it's one of my favorite stuff that I've ever done is that church, and it turned out and it turned out great. And the guys were, Jay and Glenn were always like, "Oh, are Jay and Glenn gonna like this?" And they did. They liked it. Yeah.
So originally he was just going to play the harmonica, and then it evolved into him singing?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's hard to remember.
Interesting. Okay.
40 years ago, 39.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah.
Do you remember directing that number, that scene?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it was, I mean, I had everybody where I wanted them, the principals in the front, and then some of the other principals. One of those small part principal, I don't know if you care about these things, but Colm Meaney is an Irish actor who's had tremendous success. And that was his first part in American TV, was when he's one of the three that challenges the shrew when Cibil first comes out, and there are three men there. Colm has all the lines, just a few lines. I remember him coming in, and he just come from Ireland and I just saw him about 3 or 4 years ago at the Amundsen, and he's become very established. I said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I directed you in the Moonlighting Shakespeare." "Oh yeah, that was my first job," and it was. So he became very big after that whole thing. Yeah.
From directing My Fair David to Atomic Shakespeare, did you notice the dynamics changed between Bruce and Cibil between then and then?
You know, quite honestly, not on the Shakespeare show. I think I did on some other shows, that ones you mentioned I really don't remember much of. But that's one of my reasons I thought I don't know if I directed any more after the Shakespeare show, but I had a lot of other opportunities, and by then I felt like this is the third year. The biggest problem was Glenn and Cibil. I mean, that was I didn't notice as much with Cibil and Bruce, but it was Glenn and Cibil too, having tensions and stuff, and I just didn't want to be there anymore, I think so. But I have a feeling I came back and did some of those that you mentioned, but I don't know when they were. The Bride of Tupperman and God We Strongly Suspect.
And with the hype of the show and that sort of tension, you felt that?
Yeah, but I don't think it ever affected the set. Honestly, I don't. I think they had all personal problems and things, and had personal issues. Bruce was always worried about losing his hair, I remember. And Cibil, had various boyfriends, and then had the guy that she finally married and had her children. And he came around a lot, the boyfriend, doctor. He was a doctor.
He was a chiropractor, yeah.
Chiropractor, okay. Yeah. He came. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think I was there for some of that. But again, I'm lucky. Some of the bad memories go away, and so most of the good stuff stays, and the other stuff. I just know I didn't want to. This is enough. I love Moonlighting. I love Jerry Finnerman. I love that group, but I don't feel like it's like I did 4 years on WKRP in Cincinnati, and 4 years on Family Ties, and 5 years with Reba McEntire, and I had these long relationships. I never really had that with Moonlighting. I was very lucky in that I got 2 wonderful scripts, and I had a lot of help, a lot of cooperation. So,
regarding your experience of directing Moonlighting compared to all the other shows that you mentioned, what stands out to you for Moonlighting, separating those shows?
The chemistry that these 2 actors had. To me, the secret of if you go back to Family Ties, you got Michael Fox, but you have Meredith and Michael Gross too. I mean, the chemistry of Michael Fox just with anybody, the chemistry of Bruce and Cibil, of Ray Romano and Patricia Heaton. I mean, you don't have a series unless you have really good writing about something, every Moonlighting was about catching a killer or somebody, whatever they did, but it was something engrossing, but it was also seeing the chemistry. And so that, to me, was the joy of that show. whether they got along off stage or on stage, you almost don't care. You want them to be electric on camera, which they were for the stuff that I certainly needed them for. I directed some of Mark Harmon too. That's how I got a movie that Mark Harmon wanted me to do, but I didn't do enough, but I did a couple of scenes with Mark Harmon and Cibil and Bruce. That's where I first met him. And then I ended up doing a feature it wasn't very successful, but we did a feature together. That was a joy. He was a lovely man, and that was a fun experience. But it was like coming in, okay, are you available for next week to do this? Okay, sure. I'll come in. And they had to have a DGA director there, and I think it just happened to be Mark Harmon and Cibil and Bruce, and it was good stuff. And I remember liking that. But then I didn't do enough. So we always decided, rather than have shared credit, it was always better for us, for the person, whoever did the most days, we just said that person would get the credit for the episode.
Very cool. Well, that's not we. Yep. Go ahead, Joy.
Go ahead. Oh, what do you think you brought as a director to Moonlighting? You talked about some of it, obviously.
Comedy. I think they were realizing that they got a comedy on their hands. It's not a drama, and they asked for a sitcom director. I'd had very good background and stuff, but I think, and also the fact that they had liked me on the first episode, and it went well. I was able to bring the DGA award back down to the set. I think happened a couple of weeks after. It was all very quick. I just remember bringing this. It's huge. These things, they're made out of glass or something, but they're heavy as hell. And I brought it down just to show Jerry Finnerman especially, but the crew. Anyway, so, and they love that. And I don't think I was actually directing that. I just brought it in to show them. And then I was coming in to do another episode later on. So I felt comfortable exposing myself, so to speak, because I knew even if they didn't like it, they're going to tell me that. I mean, that's the way it's been with Ray Romano or Reba McEntire, anything. When you feel comfortable in another person's presence, they know I'm all for creating that atmosphere of let's all try what we want and if we make a fool out of ourselves, who's going to care? It's not going off out over a network. It's not being seen. And let's try this and let's try it. So it gave me a creative freedom, I think, that they were willing to do.
The show is finally streaming. It's been streaming for a year or two now on Hulu, on Tubi, on a whole bunch of other platforms. Have you gotten any feedback from people seeing it again?
I don't think so. No. It's what I said, that just the Shakespeare show still gets feedback, but only because of schools and teachers. But no, I haven't. I didn't even know it was streaming. And then when I wanted to go look at it, I think I found it on Amazon. Except you have damn commercials on Amazon, but we sit through, Yeah, it's nice. It's streaming. God, it's great.
Moonlighting just celebrated its 40th anniversary. Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think it's great. I mean, I think all of these streaming things are wonderful for the young people that were like my grandchildren, they're older now, but they don't really me. They didn't know me when I was doing all of this stuff. So if they like to, they can go back and see some of the stuff. And the younger, I have a grandchild now. The oldest is 33, but she didn't know much about Moonlighting. Yeah.
And lastly, Will, are you working on any projects you'd like to share with us?
No, not anymore. I mean, we're working. Yeah, we're working on keeping me healthy and keeping my wife healthy, and we have 3 great grandchildren and 6 grandchildren, so that keeps us. I did quite a few. Once I retired, I did several benefits And I've coached a few people on when a dear friend was in a musical Brigadoon, and I knew the show very well, so I helped coach her in her. She'd already had the part, but just she wasn't getting direction that she wanted or help. So I helped her, and I've done those kind of things. But no, I'm way too tired to do too much of that. Trying to stay healthy and keep up with my great-grandchildren.
Well, you've had an amazing career. I mean, just looking at your resume.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah,
very kind. I am. This has been good for me because I go back and go, wow. But you know, when it's 40 years ago, and then you try to remember specific things, but when you watch it, you go, oh shit, I remember that the door kept slamming, or I remember that extra, that guy was driving us nuts, and those little things that you go, oof, gee. But overall, it was fun, and I had very few experiences where actors just didn't care for me, or I was turned off, you know, and I go, okay, I'm not gonna suggest things because they know what they're doing and they don't want any help at all. So, but that's very rare, you know, and I can sense it too when they go, no, just I'm fine. You find somebody else to work with. Okay, fine. They're the ones that faces are up there. So that's the most important. That's the reason you're turning in, is to see Bruce Willis and Cybill Shepherd. You don't care about this fancy shot. You know, you don't care that, oh my God, you're up on a crane and you're coming down in the beginning of the, all you care is about see what Bruce Willis does as Petruchio. Cybill Shepherd is coming out as the shrew, and that's at least for me anyway. That's why I turn it on. I want to see the words. I want to hear the good words. I want to get involved, but I want people that are attractive, and I mean attractive in not just a sexual way, but just charismatic. I want to see charisma from these people. And to me, it's a God-given ability. You can't teach. You can't teach a sense of humor. You can't teach charisma. You got it. You either got it or you ain't.
Or chemistry. You can't
chemistry. They had chemistry.
Manufacture it. Yep.
Oh, because he was so flirtatious and she was so pretty. How could you not? That was the other thing. We talked. I shot this stuff. I don't know what episode it was, but Rona Barrett, the old columnist, came in and Cibil came out with a diffusion filter. We always had to put that, especially in My Fair David, you could see the diffusion filter because she had this thing about being older than Bruce. She didn't want to look like his mother, she kept saying. And so Jerry Finnerman would put this filter every time she'd have a close-up. Suddenly, you're on a close-up of him, clear. Suddenly, bam, it's like this Betty Davis filter. And she was very open about it. She taught me, going rambling on. But anyway, she one of the first things I did was shoot a coffin. They were looking in a coffin. And this is another episode.
The Bride of Tupperman. This was in the Bride of Tupperman.
Yes. She and I had the camera they are looking down at the corpse. So I naturally, and Jerry never told me, I put it down at the coffin, and she said, no, you can't do that. Because she was a model. She knew cameras. She knew cameras for Peter Bogdanovich or herself. She was a good photographer. No, you'll see up my nose, and I don't want that. Well, how am I getting a low angle? You can put the camera at eye level, but you can't put it down there. That was one of my first days on the set. I remember whatever that was, of Bride of Tupperman. And I couldn't, so, no camera down low. And I learned that. Pretty, anyway. Yeah.
Well, she was a model. She was used to being photographed a lot, so she knew.
Cameras. She knew cameras. And the nice thing is, after whatever 2-3 years of working together off and on, she hired me to do she produced it. What?
Movie of the Week.
Movie of the Week. It was a backdoor pilot, actually, for I don't know who.
Was Stormy Weathers was the name of it.
Yes. Yeah. And it didn't turn out very well, but it was very flattering that I went in to meet the I went in to meet the two producers, and Cibil was there as a producer. And, oh my God, Will, yeah, and she got him to hire me. So I did I directed that, and she got on. She was great. I mean, it was no problems because it was her money, and if she was late to the day, and she never was late, she'd have to pay for it and all of that. So we filmed on schedule. It was all done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess those are all the questions.
There's a lot of rambling, so you can trim it down and do whatever.
No, you share some stuff that we never heard before. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's great you're doing this. I mean, I think it keeps the show alive.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, ladies.
All right. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.